Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello and welcome to Self-Improvement Atlas, the personal science insight podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Aditi Kuti. Let's get on with the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, your host, Aditi, is not here, unfortunately, because she is unwell with COVID. So it's a bit sad for us, but please make sure you're taking care of yourself. And Aditi will be back when she's ready. But I'm here. My name is Lou, and I'm going to stand in for her. And today, we're going to talk about nutrition. We have visited this topic before with an expert, and this time we have another kind of expert with us. She has a very interesting background, so I hope you'll enjoy this conversation. I have on the line with me virtually, all the way from Canada, Phuong. She is a financial analyst by day, and by night, she is a personal trainer. She has training in nutrition. She does personal training. She does yoga teaching. So I think she's the perfect person to talk to us about nutrition in the context of personal development. And the topic of today is fueling your best self, how nutrition powers personal growth. So, Phuong, thank you so much for being here. I know I introduced you a little bit, but we would love to hear a bit more from your side. Obviously, there's so much more about you. I'm sure you can share a bit more about yourself with our listeners.
For sure. So, first of all, hello, Lou, and hello, everyone who is listening and will be listening. Again, I'm Feong, and as Lou mentioned, I am a financial analyst by day. So technically, my job is to focus on, my job is to sit in front of a computer and talk to a lot of people from the business side who is doing operation in a business, meaning that they'll produce a product and then get it sold somewhere else to customers. And then I'll be the finance person behind all of that who analyze numbers and help the business to make meaningful decisions in the future. So that's put aside. Now I'll jump to the second part of my day, which is focusing on helping people to basically exercise, get healthier, and just have more energy and more motivation to, living their best life during their training with me. I do train yoga and personal training, which basically means weightlifting or resistance training, whatever you can think of that people usually do at the gym. That's all about me. I guess that's enough.
Yeah, well, I think actually there's more to it because we're talking about nutrition. So I need to mention the fact that you have a blog where you share very healthy, I think, vegan or vegetarian recipes with, your Instagram followers. I think you mentioned that you want to keep doing that very soon, but for now you're having a pause because of how much commitment you have. But I think that's where I find this to be one of the good topics that you can address with us, because I'm sure you probably talk to people you train about what they should eat to complement their training. It's not just about what we do at the gym, but it's also what we do to fuel our body as well, right?
Yep, definitely. Nutrition is a big factor. I did share quite a bit of knowledge that I've gained through the years and all the recipes that, I would say they're mostly plant-based. You can think about it as a vegan, but I see it from the perspective of just having more and more plants and veggies in your day-to-day meal. So the Instagram is where I share it with whoever is interested in. Speaking on the fact that I have to put it on a pause for a while, simply because after COVID, people are starting to go to the gym and back to yoga studio. So I just feel that I should be there. My my next quest is to be at the gym and to be at the studio instead of just being online and posting.
That's so interesting because we're talking about personal development. I can hear quite a bit of personal development unfolding right there. So, that's fun. We'll talk more about that in a bit. And I'm keen to hear more about the recipes maybe after this. And, if our listeners are interested, we'll definitely link the account so they can explore the recipes you shared. But let's get into the conversation. And we have a section before we go into the interview where we talk about your recommendations or things you think of when you hear these words, and we call it Have You Met Phuong? Are you ready?
Yeah, ready. Let's go.
Okay, so first one, I love these questions. I always ask people, and I don't think we've talked about this yet, but what is a book you would recommend?
Oh, recommend. There's so many, but maybe I'll just mention one that I just finished a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called, I read this in the Vietnamese version, but I believe if we translate it into English, it'll be something like 12 Life Principle by Jordan
is it 12
Pearson.
Rules for Life?
Yeah, there you go, by Jordan Pearson.
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very, I would say, simple and complex book at the same time. It talks about basic principle that you should develop for yourself, but it can be complex in a way that it's hard to build and maintain. But if we can, then I'm sure you have the same opinion because it sounds like you've read it already. It's such an essential book.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about the book because it's really hard for me to read, actually. I think I started reading it in 2021. And then I just like dragged through it. I just never finished it. I think I'm on chapter 4 or something. But I gave it up. Like I just could not finish it. Maybe at one point later, I might be able to pick it up again. I get the gist of the conversation, but I don't know. Like the writing style, it's a bit hard for me to consume. But other people seem to like that book. So yeah, it depends.
That's all. Yep, agree. Jordan Pearson's writing style, it's just unbelievably difficult to read, I would say. The words, the vocabulary there, it's beyond what I'm used to on a day-to-day basis. But yep, when it's meant to be, then it's meant to be, right? Like maybe you'll pick it up sometime in the future.
It's really, the language was definitely too convoluted for me to wrap my head around. So yeah. That's okay. I'll pick it up again at one point when I'm ready. But that's about book. What about a movie? Which movie would you recommend?
Oh boy, movie. It's one of the passion of mine, I would say, because I love watching and reading movies. So I can't really just give one name out.
You can give multiple.
I'll just mention one that I just finished watching for, I believe, the 5th time now. It's Inception by Christopher Nolan. I'm sure everyone knows this blockbuster. Yeah,
definitely.
But, I love watching it because first of all, it's interesting. Second of all, it helps me to really, I find something new in the movie every time I watch it. And it's, it just reminds me of the fact that everything can be changed in terms of mindset. Well, the movie, it's basically about how to put an idea in your head and how to remove it, right? So it's just a nice reminder of how, your mindset can be changed.
Interesting. I like how you see it. Yeah, go on. All right. So you're on a podcast as a guest right now, but what is a podcast that you listen to very often or, one of your favorite shows that you would like other people to start listening to?
So Andrew Huberman, I'm not sure if you ever watch his podcast. There you go. I have. If I don't know, if I just have to summarize his podcasts in one word, I'll say informative. It's super informative. I feel like if I follow all of his nutrition and health knowledge and guidelines, then I'll be a superhuman. Yeah, it's crazy how much of information he gives us and how much of recommendation he gives us, in terms of how to build an optimal daily routine that leads to a very sustainable, healthy lifestyle, I would say. So yeah, love it.
Interesting. Cool. I like that. I mean, I've definitely watched his podcast and listened to his podcast, but it's interesting to hear from a perspective of someone who's really passionate about nutrition, because like I'm not as passionate as you are, I would say, but yeah, it's definitely very helpful.
Yeah.
All right. So next one, who is your famous role model? Or if not famous, then who's your personal role model?
Well, I find this question quite interesting because I cannot fully answer it right away. I don't have a role model in my life. Maybe for a long time. When I was young, there are several role models. But as I grow up, I feel like we can always find inspiration and even knowledge from everywhere. We can learn from anyone. We can be inspired and motivated by almost everyone. So I don't have a role model.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But if I have to name someone, then again, Andrew Huberman, if you want to learn more about optimal daily routine, Jordan Peterson, if you want to learn about psychology, and maybe Neil Bernard, if you want to learn more about nutrition and just healthy eating.
Neil Bernard, that's a new name for me.
Bernard.
That's interesting. Okay. Thank you. And finally, what is a course you've completed and you would like to talk about?
So I have completed certification-wise, in terms of fitness, nutrition, and exercise, I would say registered personal training, the certificate, which basically allows someone to become a personal trainer. And then the second one that I did before that, after that, was the 200 hours yoga training certificate, which basically means that you have to commit into 200 hours worth of yoga training to become a teacher. So yeah, those are the biggest two that I've accomplished before actually getting into this profession. So.
It's interesting. You did not mention anything about financial training.
That's another rabbit hole. Yeah. We can just skip that for now.
Go straight into the fitness and nutrition and health side of things. I love that. Okay. Well, I could first of all say that you're a very dynamic person. You have a lot of different things that you're doing. And honestly, it amazes me that you're saying that you do financial analysis during the day and personal training, after work, because I don't know how you manage your life, to be honest. But I love that you still make time to do certain things, because after that section, we know that you still, read books, watch movies, listen to podcasts, learn new things. So you're probably one of the best people out there that are kind of like on the, the normal people side that can talk about personal development really well. So I'm keen to hear your definition of personal development. How would you define personal development?
My definition of personal development, it's basically to, first of all, constantly striving every day to improve just one tiny thing in your life, but on a constant basis. So every week or every month, if you have just a few minutes to sit down and think of what you've done in the last week or month, you feel a sense of accomplishment, then that's the first step towards personal development. You're on a constant routine of improving your life in a way that you feel positive about. So that's the first step. And the second step really is to gain as much knowledge as possible within that week or that month, so that with that knowledge, you can be a better version of yourself. Sometimes motivation is just the first step, and you need knowledge to accomplish two basic to basically complement the motivation, right? So to be able to gain knowledge about personal development, really, you just have to look for the role model or, well, a podcast or someone around you or, well, any source that you can find that gives you that knowledge and follow it.
Yeah.
That's my definition of personal development. 2 steps: motivation and knowledge. Therefore,
Yeah, cool. I like that. I mean, this is my first time hosting a podcast for this show, so I've listened to some other definitions, but I think each person has a very unique way of seeing personal development. And I like that you're infusing 2 different aspects into that. Some people actually say motivation is not really a thing. Like, you just have to do something to actually have the motivation. So yeah, I find that to be an interesting area to explore. But the gist of the story, I guess, is it's always hard for us to find ways to improve ourselves, because you're saying it's one thing, right? But a lot of the times you might have struggles with multiple things at the same time. And it sometimes leads to analysis paralysis. I don't know about other people, but for me, that's kind of the case. So to you, what are some of the challenges when it comes to personal development?
Well, there are so many challenges, but I would say one of the biggest one would probably be the time where you run into a question or a confusion when you know too much. You have multiple sources of knowledge, and then definitely one day you'll run into a time where you'll be like, okay, what I've learned so far doesn't make sense anymore. And per this person or per that person, those are like what they're teaching me are basically conflicting, and it even conflict with what I believe in the past. And now I feel like all I've learned so far is it's not what I want to believe anymore in the future. So that can be one of the main challenges. And to me, the easiest way to solve that, again, is to get rid of all the noise and just really look back at yourself and ask who you want to be, and just narrow down that question into 1 or 2, maximum maybe 3 role models of 3 versions of yourself that you want to be. So for me, the example that I can give, it's probably, if I have to answer that question, I'll just say I want to be a healthy person. That's the most important thing. The second thing is I want to be financially stable. So I want to have good control over my financial life, so that, I have enough financial, I would say, resources to do what I want to do in the future. And the third thing is to basically have a good social life with, I can keep a relationship with my friends, my family, and all my acquaintances in the past. So those are my 3 most important values in life. And what I have to give up is, first of all, the time that I would say the time that I have to, that I can spend on other hobbies, or the time that I can spend on, making more friends. So so there you go. I hope that answered the second questions.
Yeah, I mean, it does, but it's interesting that you say, information gets conflicting, because they're kind of contradicting each other. And I find that to be true in some cases. Recently, I've kind of noticed that when you learn about something new, it's kind of like, oh, this is the right way to do it. And then another source like, oh, no, that's the right way to do that. So then you kind of get in the middle and you're like, I don't really know what to do. But I guess that's the way that life works, because, let's just say when you do more research into nutrition, you'll find that, previous research might be outdated, or even, physical health training is the same thing. Like, previously somebody else might say a piece of information is true, and then now you find that actually no, that advice doesn't apply to everyone. So I guess it's a constant learning journey when it comes to personal development. And
For sure.
I like that you really just base that on your values, honestly. Because when I think about personal development, I have this sort of like this internal battle of, okay, where do I go? What do I work on first? Because there's always so much to work on as a person, right? You have so many different aspects of yourself. And I think it's important to know where you want to be in life. Like you said, your values would dictate that. And then from there on, you work on what you work on. Like if you don't spend enough time with your friends and you want to rebuild relationship, then you need to shift your focus and just change your priorities, I guess. So that's interesting. It's an interesting take. I don't know if anybody else has had that take on this show, so we'll find out.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So now let's talk about nutrition and diet and everything related to nutrition. I mean, this is personally my least favorite topic to talk about because I know nothing about it simply because of that. So I'm keen to hear from you because, it's my least favorite topic, but I need to be more interested in it and I need to learn more about it. So how would you define a healthy diet, first of all?
Okay, so a healthy diet. Sorry, I'm trying to find a short description or definition for healthy diet, but really it's I would
it's
say
a tricky
healthy,
one.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to summarize such a topic into one or two sentences. Let me think about it for a second. So maybe a healthy diet, it's something that can help you to, first of all, have enough energy to function on a frequent basis. So it has to give you enough energy. The second on the list is probably the ability to help you to stay healthy in the long term. So short term and long term, energy for the short term, and all of the extra stuff, I would say, for long-term health. And the last one is probably the ability to help you to prevent disease. So yeah, there you go. That's my short definition of healthy diet. I guess we'll dive into it later on into all the three factors. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, I'm not sure if the researchers would have another definition, but I really like your definition because it's very practical. It should fuel your body and it should be able to keep you going. And we're going to talk about aging in a little bit as well. But since you got trained in this area and you know about nutrition, I'm wondering what the types of diets that are commonly recommended, especially when it comes to your physical health and, what are deemed quote unquote healthy, because I feel like healthy is an interesting word. Like, does that mean that we don't eat any sweet? Does that mean that we only eat vegetables? So what are some of the types of diets that are recommended?
So to answer that question, I'll probably have to talk about two different types of diet. One is basically designed for the majority of the population, and the second type of diet is basically prescribed by doctors or nutritionists or dietitian to certain group of people who need a special diet so that they can function or they can cure some certain types of disorder or disease. So the diet recommended to the majority of our population, you can find this information on almost every government website. I'm living in Canada right now, and it's very easy for me to just go to Canada, I believe. What is it called again? Canada Food Guide. And it's a material published by the government to basically educate the entire population about what to eat, how much to eat, and when. They even have recommended meals to certain type of, children or older people or, different ages and different health needs. So that's the first type. You can find it on almost any government website. I even look into the Vietnamese government website, and it also has this information. So that's the first source that I would go to. Yes, it's very complete. It's very informative, and everyone can access it instead of, like going through multiple sources of information where you, again, can see several conflicts. Maybe just go to the main source and start from there, and then research along the way. So that's the first type of diet, the common one. And the less common one, the one that is specially prescribed or specially designed. So this one, maybe some names, maybe you're familiar with some of the names like paleo diet or keto diet or low carb diet, low fat diet, something like that. So all of those diet, I can give an example here. So really low carb diet, I believe it was designed 7 years ago, but with the purpose of helping certain kind of patients with one of the disease related to very high level of carbohydrate in their body. So with the low carb diet, again, you get rid of the high level of carbohydrate in your body, and that way you basically the disease gets less severe. So it got adopted and adapted later on so that people, so that a larger group of people can use to, not this time, not to cure any disease, but basically to reduce the amount of calories intake that they have in a day. So as you can see, the diet here is changed, is modified with different purposes. And before that's why I would say before adopting that diet, maybe go talk to a professional to see if that diet is really what you think it is and it's really suits you. Because, for example, low carb diet, as I just mentioned, it's not a diet for a healthy, normal person. It was designed to cure some disease. So if you want to use that diet now, maybe you want to ask yourself twice that whether it's going to work for me, right? Because now you're healthy, now you're a normally functioning person. Do you really need that diet? If you don't, if you're still questioning about it, maybe go back to the diet recommended for wide population. Yeah. That was a long answer. I hope it
no,
helps
it's a good one. Yeah, I never paid attention to this because I mean it's like a term that everyone sort of throws around and everyone would sort of know about it, but not in detail and not in depth. So obviously, for example, the low carb diet, I think at one point it became a trend on the internet and I didn't really understand why, because I love carbs. So I really didn't want to get into that. But yeah, that's an interesting one. And I feel like it's a tricky area for people that are not familiar with nutrition, because oftentimes as a normal human being who's not a researcher in this area, I can tell you that I get, streams of information everywhere. Like, let's just say go with this diet to burn fat, or go with that diet to sleep better, or, it can be anything. And I don't know which source to believe. So yeah, what's your take on that? How should we go about figuring out what is actually right for us?
Again, I would say my answer is, first of all, go back to the very, very basic, the foundation of what is essential for our body. What's the minimum requirement so that our body can continue function as of now and in the future, in the short run and in the long run. So the basic here, I can think of a short list that I can give you and give to the listener in maybe 1 or 2 minutes. The list of all the essential things that we want to maintain for ourselves. And based on that, we'll think about what to modify, what to add, what to reduce to come up with a suitable diet later. So what we need for our body, first of all, is macronutrient. So macronutrient include carbohydrate, fatty acids, or fat, just call it fat, so that it's easier to remember. And then protein. So let's start with the easiest one, carbohydrate. It comes from, grain, like rice and bread, almost every veggies, legumes like beans and peas and nuts and seeds. It can even comes from, this is usually called the bad carb, like sugar or basically anything with sugar, any version of sugar. And then when it comes to fat, yes, that's just the first one. The second one, the second one is fat, and it comes from even a wider source. So fat also comes from nuts and seeds, avocado, oil, butter, cheese, anything that you can think of. And one of the easiest ways you can find fat in the future is just think of something that can be, that can be solidify in the room temperature. So that's the saturated fat. Sorry, it's not from the it's not from the nature. It's not naturally made. It's humanly made, artificially made in the factory. So for example, butter. Butter can be solidified in the room temperature, and then there's cheese as well. So those are the source of fat that you can think of when you go grocery shopping. And the third type, protein, comes from obviously meat, but it also can come from nuts and seeds and any types of beans like that, black bean, green bean, red bean, stuff like that, and tofu. So there you go. You can already see that to build a macronutrient, you can get the macronutrient from several types of food. So now, if I have to come up with a meal that it's nutritionally packed with all the macronutrient, I can have rice, tofu, lots of veggies, and then have some olive oil on top of all of that. Maybe just throw in some cheese if you want to, and there you go. You have carbohydrate, you have fat, and you have protein. So those are the three building blocks of macronutrients that will basically build our body. And now we'll skip to the next part, which is to keep the body healthy. And, by healthy, I mean, we're not just functioning. We're not just, just moving. But we also want to, prevent all the disease, or we want to slow down aging. Okay, so those are some what I meant by healthy. Now we want to throw in the micronutrient on top of the macronutrient. The micronutrients are vitamin and mineral. So in vitamin, we have A, B, C, D, E, and K. And then for minerals, we have stuff like, there are so many minerals that the body needs to function and to be healthy, but maybe I just name some of them. The common one like magnesium, iron, what else that we usually heard of, copper, yes, stuff like that. And then we'll have the less common one like selenium. Yes, maybe you heard of it before, but I'll just throw some of the names out there. And so to get all of that, again, where is that usually comes from? The vitamin, just think about it as color. So you want to get as much color as possible into your meal. So vitamin A, B, C, A, C, E, you can get it from everything yellow, orange, or red, or purple. And for vitamin B, you can get it from anything like avocado or all the nuts and seeds. And for vitamin K, you want to get it from the greens. And for vitamin D, you want to get it from the sunlight and tofu and mushroom. And for mineral, the nice thing is that the mineral also comes from color. So when you get all of the vitamin, usually you'll get the benefits of the mineral as well. So there you go. That was a long list, but if you really want to summarize it and put it into maybe fit into a tiny reminder or like just a sticky note, then just write down color, variety, and nature, right? So all the colors will ensure you the micronutrient, and then the variety will ensure you that you get enough nutrient, macronutrient and micronutrient. And then for, so that was color, variety, and what was the last one that I had before?
Nature?
Yes, nature, right. Thanks for that. And so nature will really help you to get the micronutrient in a high quantity. So the less you cook it, the less you process some food, the more micronutrient that you keep in your food or in your meal. So there you go. Again, nature, variety, and nature, variety, and color.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't remember the list right now. That's a long list. I was like, wow, okay. I didn't know about any of this. I just go grocery shopping and get whatever.
So now go grocery shopping, challenge yourself to get yellow, purple, orange, green, white, black, all the colors from the natural aisles that you can get. Just get all of them and challenge yourself to cook a meal with as much color as possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Okay. It's interesting because you know how when you go into the grocery store, you see the fresh produce section. And then as you make your way out, you see all of the candies and stuff. It's kind of like it tricks you, but it's kind of like a reward system. Like, okay, you've done the healthy shopping. Now get some rewards on the way out.
All the treats that you deserve.
Yeah. I think it's a good thing to learn more of. Like the fact that there are different kinds of nutrients, the macro, the micro, like you said, the different kinds of vitamin, the fact that we should add colors. But I also think it's healthy to indulge every now and again, like not all the time, of course, but every now and again, it's okay to indulge. Like a lot of people like to have ice cream, chocolate. They go drinking, and I feel like the current culture of healthy diet is kind of like when there's a blog post about it, there's basically none of that involved. It's basically just like plant-based diet, like all of the nutrients. And I think that's a good thing, but that's not what life is about. So I feel like there's an imbalance there. And I guess that goes back to the definition of a healthy diet as well, right? So let's just say if your values is social time or things like that, you would spend social time hanging out with friends, and naturally we would have cake or have alcohol, and that's very normal. So I think it's also important to keep in mind that it's not that diet that you just recommended all the time, but it's actually a combination of that and occasional indulgence, especially on in social occasions, not all the time, of course. So I guess we have to find our balance, and we are the only ones that know how much to consume, or I guess if there's guidance there, it'll be good, because at the moment I'm just like freestyling it, to be honest. If I'm at home, I tend to eat quite healthy, and then if I go out with friends, I just like whatever the guys and the girls want.
100%. Everything you said, everything you mentioned, it's definitely what I believe in as well. You cannot just be healthy 100% of the time, because it's basically the easiest way to isolate yourself from society. No one wants, no group of friends that I know want to go to a restaurant and all order salad, because, well, it doesn't work that way. It's not the purpose of going out and going to a restaurant. So, definitely. Usually I'll just remind myself to be to follow the 80-20% rule. So 80% of the time you do your healthy diet, and 20% of the time you do whatever, you just go with the flow, whatever the group say, I'll take it. Because 80% of the time it's based on 80% of of what you do. That's how your life will be designed, right? It's not about the 20%. The 20%, it's the fun part, and 80% will be the foundation part. So if you feel like it's getting reversed 20-80 or like 90-10, then 10-90, then like you should be worried. But if it's 80-20, perfect.
Yeah. That's a really good tip. I completely forgot about the 80-20 rule until you mentioned it. That's a really good one. Oh, I need to read that book again. But yeah, that's a really good one. It's most of the time, not all the time, because anything done to the extreme, I don't think is going to work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so now we want to talk about personal growth on this show. And we've talked about nutrition. We've talked a bit about the balance in your diet to keep it healthy. But healthy here is not just in the sense of nutrition itself, but it's also in the sense of life. Like, how do you stay healthy, but also have that healthy fun, I would say. So when you look at your diet, and especially because you train people and you probably give advice in terms of their nutrition intake and things like that, I wonder what the observation would be related to personal growth, because I actually didn't really think about it in that regard. Like, I didn't really think about the relationship between nutrition and personal growth, because to me, initially, I thought it was separate. Like I would say a couple of years ago, I thought it was like a separate area. Like, like you need to eat every day. It doesn't matter. But now I actually see that it's actually a big part of personal growth, because if I see that I'm consciously cooking more and, making more healthy, conscious dishes at home, or, just make, healthy choices when I'm going out with friends, I feel like that shows my personal growth in terms of self-control, discipline, and a lot of other areas. So that's my personal observation. But how do you think diet and nutrition would affect personal growth?
It's exactly like you just described it. By learning about nutrition and learning how to prepare nutritious meal, you learn self-control, you learn self-discipline, you learn how to basically design your life and design your daily life in an optimal way. Have a routine for yourself. So all of those good things. I just add a few more things on top of that. The first, it's probably, like I mentioned before, good nutrition, good and nutritious meal give us high energy to function throughout the day. So say if you skip meal, or your meal, it's lack of quality, then you might run into a time where you feel like you don't have energy to do anything that you want. You might crash during like afternoon time, and you can't just really function during your evening. Cannot get to the exercise that you want to do when you just started your day, right? So energy, it's one thing that I want to add. Another thing is probably I would say the health aspect that, those micronutrients that I just mentioned added to your life. So an example that I can think of is definitely when you go work out and you train your muscles. I see this all the time on my client. They train their muscles really hard, and then the next day they're having a lot of cramps, or they have muscle pains, and they cannot exercise for the rest of the week. So diet can come and help by, if you just eating enough, you just have enough magnesium and potassium, by eating more, maybe nuts and seeds, and having a couple of bananas before or after workout. That'll give you the potassium and magnesium. Really helps with muscle cramps, muscle pain. It helps the recovery in your body after the exercise. So there you go. Nutrition will give a lot of health benefits to your entire body. when you run into special, situations like that. And then another thing, the last thing that I want to add is probably the gut health. So as we age, we definitely have to take care of our gut. So basically what is going on in our digestive system. The reason is because if we don't take care of the gut health, then the microbiome might be screwed. And you might run into problems like mood swing or the time where you feel like I'm having a very bad stomach. I don't feel like doing anything at all. I cannot even think clearly. Yeah, so
That's me.
there you go. Now nutrition will come help. You just have to eat to increase the certain level of fiber that you have during the day, or you just have to learn to take care of your microbiome by not worrying too much, reducing the stress level. So it's a cycle, right? You take care of your microbiome, and then your mental health will be improved, and then now your stress will be reduced, and can improve your microbiome because of the reduced stress level. So nutrition affects everything in life, and like I just said, energy, the microbiome, and your the healthy benefits that we can get from the diet are what I think are essential for personal development.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you don't have energy, then the last thing you want is to work on yourself, right? You probably just want to chill out and watch Netflix, rather than do any self-work. That's a really good point. Yeah. Well, so that's the theory side of things. Now I would love to get into the practice part, because I know that you're very busy, but you maintain a healthy diet, and that shows because, you keep the blog, and you study about these things, and you talk about it really well. So I'm guessing that your diet is pretty healthy. So what is a practice that you would recommend to everyone so that they can maintain a healthy diet, regardless of what happens in life? And perhaps, based on the understanding of nutrition, given the conversation we just had. So, what is one practice you would recommend?
Probably have a routine. So one of the most important practice that I had for myself is that I would go grocery shopping every Sunday, and I meal prep everything. Before, a couple of years ago, I used to meal prep by having, the meal completely cooked on Sunday. But now I don't do that anymore, because I feel like the quality of the meal kind of get worse and worse through the day. So by the time I got to my fourth meal, it already feel like this is not fresh anymore. So by meal prep, I mean just preparing the ingredients in a way that it's easy to cook during the week. So say if you buy cauliflower or broccoli, if you just keep it like that in your fridge, you're never going to touch it, to be honest. At least it's me. I'm not going to touch it until I run out of all the food that I have in my fridge. So I'm just going to cut it into smaller stems, or like smaller parts. And then when I come home after a long day and I get very hungry, just have to pull it out of the fridge and do a quick stir fry or do a quick soup. In the meantime, I can listen to some music or listen to some podcast, and just gonna spend like 5-10 minutes washing the dishes later on. And so when I cook for my dinner, I tend to cook for 2 portions for the dinner and for the next lunch as well, so that I can bring the lunch to work the next day. You just have to get your own routine. You don't have to follow me, but that's how I would recommend. Have a routine so that when you come home after a long day, you don't have to do grocery shopping. You don't have to spend hours cooking and cleaning, but still have a very good quality of meal.
True. I mean, you answered the next question already. I was about to ask you for the benefits of this practice. You already covered them. You convinced me. I've recently got into a better routine overall with my meal prepping and just, cooking and cleaning during the week, because it's hard to get back into a routine after traveling. And I felt like that was the case. So I got back into it, and I feel like I have more time for personal development, because I feel like, little things add up, right? So instead of feeling stressed out and having to do everything in one go, I kind of just break that down into like intervals and do things every day. So then, I would have more time at the weekend to reset, plan. So that's a really good point. But it's easier said than done, just like you said. And the routine that you have does not apply to everybody else.
Exactly.
So the next thing about developing or even having a routine in the first place is, if someone already has a routine, it might be hard for them to change. Or if someone does not have a routine at all, they probably don't know where to start. You shared your routine already, but it's not like they're going to be able to adopt that straight away. So what would be some of the challenges for people in general when they start to get into a routine?
Okay, so challenges, there are several. I can think of a million reasons not to start a routine, because routines are time consuming and it requires a high level of discipline. But the biggest one I would say is don't know where to start, basically, right? Because say if you want to go, say, grocery shopping every weekend, now you have to find time. You have to say no to all of the previous commitment that you had with all of your friends or families or whatever. And you'll be like, okay, I don't even know if I can do it for 2 weeks. Now I have to do it for the rest of my life? No, thank you, right? So it's really mentally, it's not the thing that I would jump into right away. And the second challenge I can think of, it's lack of information and lack of knowledge. So say if you decided that you want to do meal prep, for example, for the month, then you have to know which items you should buy to be able to prepare. Exactly. And what, like, given all the ingredients, how can I design an optimal, healthy meal, right? So that's another challenge: lack of information and lack of knowledge, really. Those are the biggest one that I can think of already. If we can overcome them, I think it'll be much easier. But yeah, those are the biggest one at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, totally. So that's the practice. And to you personally, how has that affected your personal growth? Because we're talking about personal development on this show. So I wonder how having a routine like that has helped you.
So it helps me tremendously, for sure. First of all, it was time consuming at the beginning, but through time, a routine helps me to save a lot of time. So I know for sure that every Sunday, 3 p.m. the latest, I have to go to grocery shopping, because grocery store close at 6 p.m. in Canada. Used to close at 6 p.m. I think in Canada. So if I don't go grocery shopping by 3 p.m., I don't have food for the next week by 6 p.m. So it helps me to develop, again, a routine, a principle, and then I have to get it done. And it saves me a lot of time during the week to, go grocery shopping here and there every day. It saves cooking time because the ingredients are already prepped. I just have to put them together and put whatever sauce I pre-bought on top of them. And it saves me a lot of, energy thinking about what to eat, what to buy, what to cook. And then with all the time that I've saved from cooking and cleaning, now I can put it on something else, like maybe just watching something that I want to watch, learn something I want to learn. And also with the efforts that I save, I have more energy to do other stuff in life that I want to do instead of, cooking or arguing with. I used to have housemates, so I used to argue with them a lot on cooking and washing the dishes. So there you go. It saves us it saves us some mental efforts as well. So Lots of
Yeah.
benefits for sure.
Totally. Yeah. So good. And finally, what would you recommend people to combine this practice with? I'm sure besides maintaining that routine, you would do
Routine.
something else for your personal development. So what would you combine it with?
Um, which so basically combine with. There's so many things to combine with actually. So I'll just list
Yeah, then
everything
it
that I
doesn't
can
have to be
think of.
just
Then
one. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, go for it.
So on top of a good diet, nutritious diet, I would say, then it's essential for us human beings to get enough exercise, resting, sunlight, and socialization. Yeah, so 5 pillars really: diet, exercise, rest, sunlight, and get socialized. And then
Yeah.
you should have much better daily life than without one or two or three of them. You should,
So basically we should do that on the daily as well. Besides
I mean, it doesn't have to be
just meal
perfect.
prepping. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't have to be perfect, but as much as possible. So in Canada, for example, in the winter, we have like a tiny bit of sunlight compared to in the summer. So I cannot get it on a daily basis. But if I have time during the weekend, definitely I just get out of the house and bathe myself under the sun. Sorry, that was too cheesy, but
No, I
yeah,
love it. Yeah, same
yeah.
in Melbourne.
Before,
It's not that sunny in the winter most of the time. Oh, good to know. Okay, well, that's really good to know. Because initially, when you talked about the practice, you were talking about the routine, right? And you focus really heavily on the meal prepping and the nutrition aspect of it because we were talking about nutrition. But when you added on the other pillars, I realized that it's better to actually think of the routine in a more holistic way because it's not just about the food, right? I mean, you can cook and eat healthy all you want, but if you don't, let's just say you don't go out at all, you don't exercise at all, and it doesn't really matter because you still don't have the sort of holistic well-being that you would need for your, I would say, for just maintaining, just being good in your own skin before you even work on your self-development, because that wouldn't give you energy. So that's a good point. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Good to know. So finally, before we let you go, we have a section called Open Mic. This is where you can share anything you would like to talk about, perhaps something you're very passionate about that you didn't get to mention during the podcast. So the floor is all yours.
Okay, so open mic. I would just get 1 or 2 minutes to talk about exercise because we literally just mentioned the 5 pillars: exercise, resting, diet, sunlight, and what's the last one that I forgot? Socialization. Yeah, social.
Yeah.
So exercise is a big one because I tend to. So when I think about those 5 pillars, I am a little bit lazy and greedy. Want to combine all of them, and exercise is when I get the 4 out of the 5. So exercise can be. It doesn't have to be like lifting weight at the gyms or doing hardcore plank or burpees. It can be something simple like walking with your friend and chatting under the sun, under direct sunlight. And you can also just take your time, just do a slow walk. It doesn't have to be running or stuff like that. So you can rest your mind. And you can rest your eyes as well, because for me, and I guess for a lot of young people, we tend to work or we tend to look at our phone all the time. So it's important to rest your eyes and rest your mind. So there you go. You rest, you get resting, you get exercising, you get direct sunlight, and you get social from just walking or even biking. Some of the people I know really like going for biking during the summer, or basically just doing any kind of activities that get you active.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good one because Yeah, that's interesting because I'm not the host of this show, but I host two other shows about happiness and well-being. And on the show about well-being, we just talked about that. We just talked about the fact that you can get more exposed to nature and really just improve your well-being by getting someone like a friend to go on a walk with you, and then you can chat, and instead of hanging out at a cafe, you can actually hang out by
Exactly.
walking together or hiking together and just having really good conversations. And I feel like that's a really good one because you gain so much out of it, and from your
That's us.
perspective that covers 4 different aspects out of 5.
Out of
That's
5.
pretty cool,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, like 4 out of
Yeah.
5, that's like 80%. Super
Right?
cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thanks. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us. And before we let you go, if our listeners would like to find out more about you, your work, or maybe get in touch with you for a collaboration, how can they find out about you?
The quickest way is, I guess, through my email, feongnguyen@gmail.com. Or you can always message through Meet Well, which is the Instagram that I created for, sharing nutrition information. Unfortunately, it's in Vietnamese, mostly in Vietnamese. Some of the content are in English, but very limited. So yeah, that's where you can find me and chat with me, or really anything. I love sharing, I love chatting, so you can find me there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And really appreciate you staying on, even though it's really late there. I think it was enlightening for me because I learned a lot about nutrition today. I did not know about any of that prior to this day. And I really like the 5 pillars that you mentioned. So hopefully this conversation helps our listeners to know more about nutrition as well as personal growth by having routines. And until next time, we'll come back with another episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad that I share something informative and meaningful and helpful today. Again, thanks for having me on this podcast. Great chat.
You've been listening to Self-Improvement Atlas, the personal science insights podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. For more episodes like this from 10 different life management perspectives, search LMSL on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, so you can get updated on everything we have to offer. We have a wide range of topics readily available for you to check out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps us grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can also be found on our website at pe.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Aditi Kutty. Thanks for tuning in.